All right, we should be live. There's a bit of a delay, so it could be, but at least we should be live. Perhaps I started a little bit early or not. Anyway, let's see if actually people are listening to me, people are hearing me, people can see me. If so, please let me know in the chat. I would appreciate that. Cool, I see people already chatting right there. I see Richard, I see Peter, I see Scott, I see Giovanni, I see Jill, I see Dennis, I see Mary, Teresa, I see Toril, I see, it's going fast right now. This is really good. All right. First of all, thanks all for being here with me. I really appreciate that. It is 5 p.m. right now here in the Netherlands. So, you know what? We'll just dive right into it, right? Like, that's what we're all here for. So first of all, again, I appreciate you all being here. What we're gonna talk about today is how to target the most profitable audiences on Facebook. Obviously, using the new feature that we've been working on over the last period. And I'm super excited to show this to all of you. And I want to do this live in person with all of you because it just, it just needs that explanation as well. And also, I just wanted to touch base, plus share some strategies and stuff like that as well. Also, obviously, answer any questions. Now, for those of you who have seen me talk live, you probably know I am the worst multitasker in the world. So if I'm not if I'm not constantly replying to your chat, my apologies. I have someone from the team also monitoring the chat, and at the end I'll do some Q&A as well. I'm just the worst multitasker in the world. So don't be offended at all if I seem to ignore your question. Also, I'm looking at the camera while right there is my chat. Yeah, well, let's just dive right into it, right? So, how to target the most profitable audiences on Facebook? Well, first of all, I want to talk about obviously we're all here. If you're here, if you're on this call, you are a ConnectExplore customer. First of all, I appreciate that as well. And really, our mission and our goal at ConnectExplore is to help you get a higher ROI from your Facebook ads. Because over the last couple of years, when I started ConnectExplore a couple of years back, I'll be honest, like initially, I'm a geek, right? I'm a marketing nerd. I love everything about it. So I was looking for ways to tricks to how can we increase the ROI? How can we make sure our ads are actually performing better than someone else's, right? And that's why ConnectExplore got started, and that's why initially we started bringing out tools to help other people do that as well, right? And over the last year, I've been really looking back and what is it we actually do? Like, do we have tools or whatever? And our core mission, our core goal is to help you get a higher ROI. And yes, the tools are the how. The tools is how we do it, but this is always our true north. Like, this is really what we want to do for all of you. And that's going to be important for something that I'll explain to you in a little bit as well. Now, obviously, I think most of you know who I am. My name is Wilco de Kraai. If you have noticed, I'm obviously not a native English speaker. I'm from the Netherlands. Been selling online since 2002. Been an online entrepreneur for quite a while, over 15 years, which makes me sound old. Founder of Viral and ConnectExplore, which I think you all know as well. Here with my wife, and right there she's skinny. Right now she's fat. No, she's not fat. She's pregnant. So that's awesome. Totally side note. But why Facebook ads? Why am I so passionate about Facebook ads, and why should you be passionate about it as well? Like, why, if you're not yet running Facebook ads, then why would you? Why should you? And that is because you need to run Facebook ads because it's where your target audience is. Like, if you're selling something as a business, what doesn't matter whether it's B2B or B2C, rest assured that your audience is on Facebook. Like, there's a lot of different places where you can advertise right now, right? But Facebook is definitely, right now, the platform to be on. It's super scalable, it's lucrative, and it's actually a lot of fun as well once you get it going, once you get to the point where every time you spend $1, you get 2 out. So if you're not yet running Facebook ads, you should. You 100% should, right? And one of the things I always see online, there's a lot of people online who talk about Facebook ads, right? And that's cool because a lot of those people, they share knowledge and hey, this is working best, this is working best. But some people, they talk BS basically. So not everything they say is always accurate. I'm not saying that I always tell, I always share what's working best for me and all of our campaigns, but I'm not saying that I am the Facebook ads ninja that knows every single detail. That's not me. But just to give you a little bit of an idea here, I took a screenshot of my Facebook ads account. And as you can see, I spent just over $2 million of my own money into Facebook ads, right? So this is not for other people. I'm not doing this as an agency or anything like that. This is the money I spend to promote my own businesses, right? And for those of you who don't know, as I mentioned, I'm Dutch, and we Dutch people, we hate wasting money. So rest assured that I test a lot of things to see like what is working best. So that's not to brag or anything like that, just to make clear that what I do is tested and like I make sure it's, you know, it works instead of just, you know, talking theory. So this part, some people might have already seen, but it's important to start with that first before I show you the new feature. And that is, what is the most important success factor of a Facebook ad? Like, I want you to answer that in the chat. I would actually appreciate that right now. Because when and again, some people have heard me say this before, but when I got started, I thought about like, oh, the most important thing is ad copy. The most important thing is like all these different things. And there are a lot of things that are important. Like, without a good offer, your Facebook AdSense isn't going to convert. Like, there's a lot of things you need to have in place, but by far, what I realized, by far, the most important part is your targeting, right? And a good example with that is again, you've probably seen this in the past, is if you have two different scenarios, right? Let's say you're trying to sell toys for dogs. Like, you have a web shop where you sell toys for dogs, and you want to try to sell it using Facebook ads. Cool. So there's two scenarios. Scenario A, you have the perfect Facebook ad, like the perfect executed ad copy, the perfect image, everything by the book, right? But it's seen on someone's timeline who doesn't even own a dog. They see it and they're like, I don't have a dog, like, it's not for me. Or scenario B, where you have a mediocre Facebook ad, like, you could actually improve it. Your landing page could be improved, but it's seen by someone who actually owns two dogs, right? Or just one dog, doesn't matter. Like, it's the right target audience. Now, which one has a higher chance of success, right? That's pretty obvious. It's obviously scenario B, right? And like, no matter how perfect your Facebook ad is, right? Every time your ad shows to someone who is not potentially interested, you are wasting money, right? So yes, there are a lot of things that are important, but if you don't have your targeting right, none of the other stuff matters, right? So that is obviously where ConnectEO comes in. We really focus on like making sure your ads are shown to the right people, so you can actually turn your ads into a profitable campaign. And we do it in various ways. So obviously there's many various things that you can use to decide who is going to see your Facebook ad on your timeline, on their timeline, right, on Facebook. For example, you can do email-based custom audiences. You could create lookalike audiences. You could create retargeting audience, people who visited your website to say like, hey, you left my website, you know, want to come back? And interest-based targeting. And that is obviously what we're going to talk about today, because again, we're here about the ConnectExplore new feature, right? So that is all about interest-based targeting, right? But before I do, I quickly want to go over these first couple as well, just for those of you who have access to the other ConnectEO products, so you know, just as a couple of examples, how you can actually improve your targeting in various of those things. So for example, email-based custom audiences, right? So it means it's a custom audience with a list of, for example, your existing customers or people who've signed up to your email list, so that Facebook is going to match them like, hey, james@gmail.com. I know that one. That's this and this Facebook user. So you can literally upload a CSV list, right? An email list, and then Facebook is going to be able to show ads to those people. Problem is, if you do that without ConnectEO, you'll have to manually upload a CSV, which means it's constantly outdated because you're not going to re-upload it every single day. Let's say you upload a CSV list of all your customers today, then tomorrow someone buys a product, they're not going to be in that custom audience. So that's obviously not good. So if you use Connect Audience, it's an automated process. You just connect your CRM or your autoresponder with Facebook, and we upload that every single day. So that's just an example of how your email-based custom audiences are improved using ConnectEO. Another example is lookalike audiences, which is basically, I think a lot of you, like if you have been running ads, you probably know about it. If not, no worries. For this training, for this session, it's not as important. But a lookalike audience is basically an audience or from people where you say to Facebook like, hey, I've got this custom audience, for example, an email-based custom audience, and you tell the Facebook like, hey, I wanna find the 1% of people that are most alike my customers, right? And Facebook has a lot of data about that, right? So they're gonna find the best kind of, like the people who are most alike, like your existing customers. But this lookalike audience is only as good as what you put in, right? So if you do that without ConnectEO, you do it based on outdated custom audiences. Like if you create a custom audience, like I mentioned here, people buy tomorrow, then they're not going to be in your audience. So your lookalike audiences are not actually improving. If you use Connect Audience, then automatically you'll have higher converting lookalike audiences because it's being updated every single day with all the data that you can feed into Facebook, right? Just as an example, retargeting, if you're using retargeting without ConnectEO, like you basically retarget everyone equal, right? Like it doesn't matter how they behave on your site. But if you have Connect or Target, for example, you can retarget people based on how they engage on your website. Like, hey, if they scroll to a certain section of my site, then they're going to be able to, then I'm going to retarget them. Now, those are just some examples for those who have access to the Connect tools. I just wanted to make sure that if you have access to Connect Suite, for example, that you know what kind of tools you have in your arsenal. But right now, I really want to focus on the interest-based targeting, because that is what we're all here for. Now, let me just quickly do a quick check if we're still awake. Are we still awake in the chat? I see a lot of people chatting, which is good. Ha, Paul, we those people don't like spending money. It's totally true. That is actually why I believe, I'm not sure if it's true, I could be totally making this up, why I believe that when people say, we go Dutch, they split the bill, it is because of us, because we do that kind of stuff. Like I said, Dutch people hate spending money. That's a totally side note. So diving into interest-based targeting, right? And I'm going to assume that everyone knows why that is, but just to make sure, that is where, if you want to decide who's going to see your Facebook ad, you put in interest. So for example, you would say people who are interested in Coca-Cola or in Pepsi or in fishing or in bodybuilding, right? And that, like, as a way to let Facebook know, like, I want you to show my Facebook ad to those people, right? That is what we're going to talk about. And obviously, that is what ConnectExplore is all about, right? If you're here, you probably have access to ConnectExplore. If not, you should. And ConnectExplore, first of all, like, it does multiple things. First of all, it helps you find more interest, right? Like on Facebook, if you enter a keyword, you will get like 20 different interests, right, to see, and we will get you all of them available, right? So for example, this keyword right here, got 20 right here. In ConnectExplore, you get 170. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's hundreds more, like, it really depends. But we show all the results instead of just some. So that's one thing we do. Secondly, we make it easier to target the most passionate group of people, right? So this is done using something called layering. So in other words, instead of just showing your ads to people who are interested in, for example, Coca-Cola or in Pepsi or in just one of those, which could be totally random. Like, I'll give you another example. Like, let's say you want to target people who are into bodybuilding, right? You could just say, like, well, if they liked, if they're, according to Facebook, they're into Arnold Schwarzenegger, they must be into bodybuilding. But here's the cool part. If you use layering, what you're going to do is you're going to have 3 groups of audiences, and only the people who are in all 3 of those groups, they're going to see your ad. So if they just accidentally liked Arnold Schwarzenegger, they're not yet going to see your ad. Only if they would, for example, they would have liked Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then in another layer, some other bodybuilding, and I'm obviously not much of a bodybuilder, so I don't have any examples. But the point is that instead of just showing everyone inside of the audience, it's only going to show the most engaged people, the most focused people who are into at least 2 or 3 of those audiences, right? That's that is called something, wow, my words, Wilco, learn to talk. That is done using layering. Thank you. So that's number 1. So find more interest and then make it easier to layer. And then thirdly, this is, by the way, an example. Some of you may have actually seen this, how powerful layering actually is. So I did a case study a while back, and again, some of you might have seen this, just to demonstrate how powerful this is. I had the exact same ad, exact same landing page, exact same interest as well. The only difference was in one ad set, I did not actually include layering, and one I did include layering. So the one where I did not use layering, I spent 269 euros, 0 euros in sales, like whatsoever. The other one with layering, right, I spent the exact same amount because I had it running for the exact same amount of time, 269 euros ad spend, and 848 euros in sales. And I actually spent more per click on this one because, again, there was more focused, but they were like way more interested in what I had to sell, obviously, because of layering. So that's just a quick example, right? Now, obviously, not every audience is created equal, right? If you're targeting multiple interests on Facebook, some of these audiences, they will convert to your offer, while others don't. Some of them, they just match with what you have to sell, while others, like the people who are inside that audience, it just is not as good of a fit for your business, right? And unfortunately, Facebook doesn't reveal this information, right? So you cannot just target like 30 different interests, and then Facebook will just tell you, oh, well, these 3, they worked really well, and these 5, they didn't work, and no, unfortunately, they put it all in one big blue box, and you'll then see basically the end result. Like, your campaign might be doing so. Well, in reality, to some audiences, your ad might be like working really, really well, and for some, it might just totally bomb. And on average, you get one big messy result, right? And that is why we had the breakdown feature. And right now, I'm going to assume that a lot of people you've used the breakdown feature, because that is what one of the things was that ConnectExplore used to be known for, right? And I call it here like rest in peace breakdown feature, because when we had it, and this is for those of you who've been using it, what we were able to do is, even though it's not available in the Facebook Ads Manager, we were able to get that data from Facebook to actually give you that data. So for any of your ads that you were running inside your Facebook Ads account, we were able to say like, hey, for the interest, Mike Dillard, for example, you got like all the stats, like impressions, click-through, like how did people respond to your ad who were in that audience, right? And then HubSpot, and then like every single interest broken down. So it was amazing while we had it, obviously, until Facebook stopped supporting it, right? So we got all the data from Facebook through their API. It's not something that an outside party like us could just suddenly invent. Like that daily data is only available if Facebook decides to share that, right? And a while back, some of you probably realized and saw it in the Facebook group and all that, Facebook suddenly stopped providing the data, literally overnight, which is annoying, but hey, life happens, I'd say. Normally they give us a 3 to 5, like a minimum of 3 or 5 month period if there's any changes on the API. In this case, they had an issue on their end, which caused it for them to stop it and like stop it overnight. And a lot of developers, not just us, like everyone was like, wow, Facebook, what's happening? It was not a cool day, I can tell you that, or week even. But obviously I didn't settle for that. Like I was like, right, so like one day I allowed myself to cry for one day. That's always what I do. Whenever something happens, I allow myself to cry for one day, and then I put my, all right, what's next, right? So we took on the challenge, and the challenge was to know exactly what audiences are and are not converting, so we can scale the winners and remove the losers, right? Because if you know this, then it's gold. Like I knew how powerful this is. Like I know it from experience, even from when back then we had the breakdown. If you know from your audiences which ones are converting, so you can spend more money there, and the ones that are just not converting, and stop wasting money on those, then you are golden, right? Like that is really, this is so powerful. Like I had to figure this out. When I say I really mean me, my team. I would not be able to crack this myself. But honestly, it was not easy. That's obviously a lot of you have noticed that it's been taking longer than I initially was hoping for. There's a good reason for that, but it was not an easy thing. But because obviously we're bound by the things that are technically possible on Facebook. We're bound by the changes that are happening on Facebook every single day. We're bound by the terms and conditions of Facebook. Like 100% what we do everything with Facebook, and not like we would never ever do something that's not according to their rules, and because we have agreements and contracts and all that, like because we're in partner with them. So definitely wasn't easy. So again, like normally we get a 3 to 5 months heads up on the API changes. Right now it just happened overnight. And since that time, like I've been running a lot of different campaigns and tests to see how we can figure this out. And I've been diving deep into all the API documentation, like what's possible, what's not possible. And I even flew out, like here's Mark, he's from the UK, he's on our team. Here's me right here. And we flew out to India with a development team to just on a whiteboard to map things out as well, to make sure, you know, to turn our idea into a reality. And what I realized is in the API documentation, there was actually a couple different ways, in theory, how this could actually work. And normally what we do is when we have a new vision for a tool or a product, like we have a good process for that. Like we come up with the idea, we test it, like in marketing experience, then we create an interface for it, we design it, we put the design into actual code, we build it code-wise, we test it. Like there's a whole process, right? And normally that is why software development takes that long, but we need to do that in order to create high quality products, right? And now it's like, holy crap, Facebook just removed the API. We need to do everything all at once. And obviously not ideal, but you know, I dove into the API documentation. I found a way to, a couple of ways actually, how this could be working. We started working on it, and after a while, we actually had a working demo, and I was like super excited. It took a while, but I'm like, all right, cool, awesome. Like we're able to see, we're able to, you know, the idea they had was actually turned into reality. And then I started testing with actual ad campaigns, right? And this is not what you want to hear, but back then, this is a while back, it actually did not work well. Like it worked, technically it worked, but the problem was that it didn't actually increase the ROI the way I wanted to. And that's why I mentioned in the very start of this presentation, like our number one goal is to help you increase your ROI. We're not here to sell you tools or like, hey, you can do this thing, but if it wouldn't actually help you, right? So at that point, I made the hard decision to whatever, like the idea that we had initially, to delete it, to put a scratch, like remove it, and to go with the other idea. So it took, like that really put us back. That's why the biggest part of the labor is actually here. Not ideal for sure, but at the end of the day, it has to be done because I need to have I'm not here to sell like, hey, we got a new tool. Like, I'm here to help you all with higher results on your Facebook ads, right? So we started over from scratch and realized that the other idea that we had was actually turned out to be much better, actually, which is in hindsight a good thing, obviously, but it definitely took longer. Right now, what is the result? And that's what you're waiting for, I think. Let me just check the chat to see if I'm not just talking to myself. Are we excited to actually reveal what's going to happen? Cool. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm actually waiting for the chat to update. So hopefully it will. Let me just keep the chat open for a little bit to make sure that I get some responses. Actually, let me just continue because otherwise you just see me waiting because there's still a delay. The chat is not here yet. So the result is actually we're not bringing. Where is my slide? It's not happening. There you are. We're not bringing back the breakdown as it was. We actually built something much better, right? And one more thing I need to mention, the reason, and that's important to understand why we made this shift. Why is my slides not working? Annoying. Always fun when something goes live and it's not working as you want it. So the reason why we initially needed to break down, obviously we don't even have the option right now, but back then there was only one way to get that information, to know which interest is converting best, right? And that was the breakdown. I mean, the reason for that is because back then all the budgets were set at the ad set level. Like right now, as I think some of you will know, you can set your budget on the campaign level. Campaign budget optimization, CBO. You might have heard about it if you're running ads on Facebook. But back then, when we first started with the breakdown feature a couple of years back, it was all, you set the budget on the ad set level, right? And here's why I'm explaining that, because there is one other way, right? Except for the breakdown back then, there was one other way that you were able to figure out which interest was working best for your business. And that was by creating multiple ad sets, right, inside your campaign, and every ad set was actually targeting one interest, right? So let's say you would target 50 different interests. Like you've done your research, like these 50 I think they're good, or like these 30 I think they're good, right? They're matching what I want to do. But then you'll have to actually create 30 different ad sets, and every ad set would have one. And that back then was not an option, right? First of all, because it would be super expensive, because you have to set a budget for every single ad set. Like, it would be crazy expensive. Plus, Facebook would not be able to auto-optimize your budget, and that's a problem because Facebook's optimization is awesome. So that's why back then this really wasn't an option, and that's why the breakdown was such a great thing. Now, for those of you who use the breakdown feature, it was good, but it was actually not as great as I ever wanted it to be, because there were some downsides on the Facebook Ads API. First of all, we were only able to show the last 7 days worth of data. So for any one of your ads, you would only see data for the last 7 days for the breakdown feature, which was good to give you a bit of an idea, but you wouldn't be able to see your full campaign history and see exactly over a long-term period of time. And also, Facebook required a minimum amount of data or views before the stats were available, which basically meant that once you started running your ads, for the first couple of days, Facebook said, like, oh, there's not enough data for us to show this information. We're not going to share this data just yet. So you have to wait like 2 or 3 days, right? Depending on how many views you were getting. And then that means that, like, you've got like 4 days left to see the data quickly, basically, right? Which also wasn't ideal. And again, it was good to get some initial ideas and to get some idea of like which one was converting best, but it could be actually be done better. And also the problem was, like, when you actually then remove the non-performing interests, so let's say you found like 10 different interests and see 2 of them they're not performing and you would delete them, you would actually Facebook had to re-optimize, which took like a day for them to like re-optimize and go to maximum efficiency again, right? So these are some of the downsides of the breakdown. But right now we got campaign budget optimization, right? So campaign budget optimization, again, means that we can set the budget on the campaign level, right? And what that's going to do is that you set the budget right here, and if you have multiple ads, then Facebook is going to automatically optimize, right? Facebook knows, like, oh, we have X amount of interest, like X ad sets here. This one is performing well, do more here, there. Like they're gonna auto optimize, and that's really, they're really good at that, right? And because of this structure now, because we have set the budget right here, we don't need to spend like $5 per ad set, for example. Like it's not as expensive per ad set as it used to be. You can set up your budget on the campaign, which it doesn't have to be as expensive as it was before. And if you want to have a lot of different ad sets. So right now with this new, with CBO, what we actually can do is we can have multiple ad sets, right? And every ad set could target one specific interest, right? Because when you do that, when you target one specific interest per ad set, you have like 30 different ad sets, everyone targeting specifically one interest, then you know like this ad set is targeting only, for example, Coca-Cola. These stats, it will show you, and these are all the same ads, right? It will show you exactly how well is Coca-Cola performing for you, the audience, the interest, Coca-Cola. And this one is, for example, on Pepsi, right? But there's obviously a problem. Like what if I have 50 interest? What I'm basically saying is like every ad set would target one specific interest, right? But what if I have 50 interest? Wilco, do you expect me to actually build 50 different ad sets in my campaign? Everyone with different settings, everyone with different ads. Or want me to set it up? Well, ain't nobody got time for that, obviously. And that is where audience testing comes in. So with the new feature that is actually live in your account, it's as a beta feature right now. What you can do once inside your ConnectExplore, once you've actually done your research, right, and you've found your interest, you can either click on apply to ad set, just like before, right, which means that all the interest that you have, like, it's going to be applied to your Facebook ads targeting on one specific ad set that you want. Or you click on the test interest feature. And what that's going to do, once you click there, you go to this screen right here, and you can set up either a new campaign or use any of your existing campaigns. And what we're going to do is we're going to create that whole campaign for you. So you set up the campaign, and then you can divide all your interests over as many ad sets as you want, right? So you can go kind of rough, or you can go super detailed. For example, right here, you just move the slider to the max, and that means that every single ad set, right, it will be targeting one specific interest. And then after a while, you'll see exactly like, this one actually is performing well, this one is not, right? And then after you'll have an upload option like to give the name for your ad sets and some other options. Select which ad you want to use, and then you click submit, and then boom, you're done, right? So what it's going to do is going to build your whole campaign. So you'll have one campaign, and then it will create all the different ad sets, and every ad set will be targeting a specific interest inside your Facebook ads account. And then in there will be your ads. So after that, like it's all in your account. And what's amazing with that is that like the stats, you're not relying on a third party like us. You can get the stats inside your Facebook ads account, right? So with all the stats, all the conversions, if you have custom conversions for the full time history, all of that. So that's all inside your Facebook ads account, right? So if you want to compare that with, and yes, it's live with in everyone's account, as I mentioned, as a beta feature right now, we just uploaded it. So previously with the breakdown, you had max 7 days of data. With this new structure, you have unlimited data because you had like the full history. Also previously, you needed a minimum amount of views before you got all the stats, right? Because you needed to spend a couple of days first. Right now, there's no minimum data. You'll see the stats from the very first click. So just like you're used to inside your Facebook ads for any of your other stats, right? It's all available right there. And also not all the stats are available. Some of the custom conversions weren't always available. And right here, because you actually check this inside your Facebook ads account, like the stats are available inside your Facebook ads account, all the stats are available, obviously, because it's the actual Facebook ads manager, right? So here's a quick example. I recently tried this out, and I was obviously promoting ConnectExplore as well. Hey, got to promote my own business, right? So I was running ads, and I set this up, and as you can see right here, I split up, and I got all these different, there's more here in the bottom, but like all these different interests, like WordPress, AppWorks, Dean Graziosi, affiliate marketing, stock, like all these different things. And what was cool is that I never expected to work, because I just let it run for a couple of days, and then I dove into the stats and see like, hey, what's actually happening, right? And I noticed that Jack Ma, I didn't even know what it was. I just found it using ConnectExplore. Jack Ma, turned out he's the founder of, what was it? AliExpress and Alibaba. It's the same thing actually. So apparently people are interested in Jack Ma. Like as you can see right here, I spent $1,200. I'm not sure if you can see it from a distance, but I spent $1,279, and I made back $2,615, right? So this one was performing way better, right? So like, wow, I would never have known that if it wouldn't for this setup, right? So now I was just able to pause the ones that are not performing and just keep the ones active that are performing, and that way, you know, cut down the losers and spend more on the winners. And that's how I've been able to make this campaign work. Now, I'm personally a big fan of Apple, to be honest. Like, got an iPad right here, got a MacBook which we're streaming from, got the pencil right here, got a phone right here. I'm a Mac freak. So obviously, as a Mac freak, for those who are Mac freaks as well, I should also say one more thing. I was like that when Steve Jobs did that. Like, there's one more thing, and then all of a sudden he had the biggest reveal of the whole presentation. One more thing, because so far we've been talking about, right, so using ConnectExplore, you can do your research, right? You can find way more interest than you can without ConnectExplore. You can do the layering becomes way more easy, and now you also can set up the split tested campaign, like with the whole structure, so that you can actually measure which interest is actually working good for you. But what's cool is that you can still use layering using this feature as well, and that's what's really, really cool. It took us a bit of brainstorming to get that done, but this is a bit more tricky to explain, so my apologies if I go too fast or if I don't explain it that well. But basically, if you have multiple layers, right here you'll see 2 layers, but there's actually a third one here in the bottom. So let's say I got 30 different interests and I divide them randomly in 3 different layers, right? So now if I would target this as is to one ad set, it would mean that people who would be able to see my ad were like in any of those interests, and also in any of those interests, and then also in any of the third ones, right? So if I go back, like that would be the middle part right here, like the overlapping segment of these 3. You can also do 2, doesn't really matter, right? And then if you have set that up, right, you have done the layering, and then you still want to test the interest, you get a pop-up, and you say, hey, which out of these layers, like which one do you want to test? Like tier 1, 2, or 3? And the reason why we do that is because then, and again, this is a bit trickier to explain, we're gonna still create, let's say you pick layer 1, so that's those 10 interests, you wanna get those interests tested, right? Which means we're gonna create 10 different ad sets, and all of them have different targeting. Every one of those 10 the way we're gonna build those audiences is like this. So the first ad set will target that one interest, but with the layers that we set up. So it's like it's a very specific segment right here, and then that's going to be for all these other ones as well. So the first ad set is going to have these layers plus this one interest that you're testing. Second one has the same layers plus this other interest that you're testing, right? So now, like, you can still drill down using layering, but also have the testing as well and set them in your campaign, and it'll just create it automatically. And that is, in a nutshell, what the audience testing feature is. Now, obviously, we're still like, we've been working hard to make sure we get this before Christmas because of all the delays before. Honestly, like, I'm a bit of a nerd. If it were up to me, well, in a way it is, obviously, but if I'd be selfish, let's put it like that. If I would be selfish, I would have like, oh, I can add this feature, add this thing. Like, it's never done, but I wanted to make sure we get this out there to you before Christmas, because I know you've been super patient and you've been waiting for us. So that's why we released it. But obviously we have a list of things that we still want to implement. And actually we love to have your feedback as well, because this is not a done thing. This is not something like, oh, here it is. And like we're constantly working on it. And we want to add a lot more things as well. So we have our own list of things that we want to add. But we also know that you are going to use it and you're like, but like I want to use this differently, or like, or maybe you're going to even find a bug, because then, again, it's in beta, right? Like, so I'm not saying it's not, but like I'm guessing there will be some bugs, like hopefully not, but as any software that's being released, there will be some. So I would love your feedback. So we can actually improve, like any thoughts, any issues, any bugs, any ideas, like, oh wow, this would make it even better. Like please do let me know. And the best way to provide feedback, right, is if you log into ConnectExplore and you're working on it. On the bottom left, you can actually see this red smiley in the far bottom left. If you click on it, if you write your feedback there, you can even make a screenshot of the page that you're on. So it's an easy using that tool. It's super easy, and that way we have all the feedback in one place, and we can quickly see like, this is what a lot of people ask about. Let's do this first, let's do that first. etc. And obviously, if you have any questions specifically about like you're stuck or if you want to have our help, then please do reach out to our regular support address, support@connectio.io. So this feedback is really just to share ideas. If you need help, please reach out to us via email. Whew. Questions. Like I said, I'm the worst multitasker, so I'm going to dive in the chat. Cool. It's super simple and quick. That's what I like to hear. Question from Mimi. So do you use this feature to test and learn which interests work and then use learnings to build campaigns? Good question. So what I actually did, there's two ways, like my personal preference. Actually, I'm just going to grab the whiteboard as well. Makes it actually easier to answer, right? To visualize it. Let me just see if if it's all clear. Hopefully it is. So let's say this is the campaign, right? And then we have, I'm not going to draw 50 different boxes. So let's say we have 4 ad sets, right? And then it's inside each of those ad sets we have some ads. Could be 1, could be multiple, right? Let's say we have 2. So what I've done so far is like, first of all, I create this campaign, right? And I would say like this one working well, this one doesn't work, for example, right? I'll just pause these, and because of that, because I have a certain budget spent right here, like for example, I don't know, maybe let's say $50 a day, right? And ideally, if your campaign is profitable, you wanna move that up, right? You want to spend more if your campaign is profitable. Every single time you spend more, you make more as well. So first of all, I'll let it ride for a little bit, then I'll quickly see which ones are not performing, right? And then because the ones that are performing, they're active, so automatically this budget then goes fully to this. So I just keep the same ad, I just keep the same structure. You could also say like, hey, I see a couple of them are performing well, put them all in one ad set. It's always worth a test. Like there's nothing, like I'm not saying this is the only way, I'm not saying this is the best way. It could also be that you're like, hey, I want to create a new campaign that has more history, for example. It's always good to test things out, but this is so far what I've been doing. So I hope that answers your question, Mimi. Good question. Can this be used for, and hopefully I'll go to all the questions. Can this be used for existing campaigns? Well, there's something here. Can this be used for existing campaigns? No, unfortunately not. I wish I could say, oh yeah, we hacked Facebook and we have the data. No, Facebook stopped providing the data. There's no way you can get it for your existing campaigns. The only way you can do it is if you create your campaigns with this structure using our audience testing feature, right? It's not like Facebook suddenly magically has it open. If they ever would reveal it in their API, if they would make that data available, we'd be the first to use it. But as always, we'd have to adapt with Facebook to use what they make available. Like there were features from Facebook a couple of years ago that I would love to still use, but they stopped using it, right? And every change is always a little bit annoying, but it also creates opportunity as well. And it's the same with this. So right now, you cannot use it for your existing campaigns. You can only use it for your campaigns that you are creating using the audience testing feature. Good question. How does this work with the new special ad categories in the USA for real estate and the limited interest targeting options available? Good question. Right now, and again, this is very much on beta, that has not been implemented in this version yet, right? We haven't done anything specifically for that. It's on our wish list, it's on our list to do. So it would also be great if you can put that as feedback in as well, but we already have that one on paper. So it's one of those things that we have to add into it as well. It's not ready yet, but again, I wanted to have this finished and ready before Christmas. Can we see interest breakdown for custom conversions and how to upload that? So yeah, so that's the cool part. So because we set this up in this system, right, and we have every ad set is targeting one interest, right? The stats, you can actually get those inside your Facebook Ads Manager, because inside your Facebook Ads Manager, you can get stats for your campaign, you can get stats for your ad sets, and you can get stats for your ads, right? And that means like all your stats, like clicks, views, but also indeed custom conversions. So like because these stats are not on our end, these stats are on inside your Facebook Ads Manager, you can get all the stats for any of those, right? So I hope that's clear, including your custom conversions. Shamila is asking, do we need to spend more money on the campaign before identifying a winning ad set? I would say not, like you don't have to, actually, again, let me just, you don't have to spend more money. Let's say this is a scenario, 2 scenarios. Why is this one empty? We'll switch to blue. Blue it is. So let's say before, right? So this is before audience creation, and this is after audience audience testing, sorry. So before, after. Beforehand, what you would do, you would just create your campaign, and you would probably have an ad set with a bunch of different interests inside there, right? So you would spend the same amount of money, right? Then you would have right here, like, and the only difference is that right now it's split up in different ad sets, right? So you can still spend the same amount of money, but now instead of like here, it's like you don't know what's working exactly, right? You'll see like whether this as a whole is working or not, right? But you don't see for any of those interests, right? And with this, you'll see like, all right, this as a whole, you can get those stats, but also you'll see like, hey, this one is not working, this one is not working, this one is not working. I hope that answers your question. Always good to have the whiteboard handy. Let's see, any other questions? Let's dive in. Let's see. Someone's saying is like, I see there's a debate going on, which I think is, it's always, I love discussion. For those who know me, like I'm happy to chime in. So about manual versus automation, like as I mentioned, what this feature does, it allows you to at one time create, for example, like 50 different intros, right? And inside, including like the layering and all that. Is that something that you could do manually as well? Yes, you could. Right? You definitely could. Just like someone said in the set, with the same logic, I could create a full landing page, a full sales page, right? By creating custom HTML. I could do that all manually, or I can use a tool like, for example, ClickFunnels or Instapage and do it easily, right? Same thing here. Yes, you could do it manually, spend a couple of hours, and it will be done, right? Or you use our feature and it'll be done in a minute. Right, so that's basically the difference. So yes, I'm not saying that this is the only way. You could do it manually. Be happy to spend all that time. Feel free. We just make it like a lot easier, basically. Yes, Cornell. Basically, we'll create one campaign with multiple ad sets, and every ad set you can have one interest automatically. So that way, after a while, you'll see exactly which interests are performing, which ones are not. Do you still have to input each interest manually inside ConnectExplore? So you can just search using ConnectExplore. So yes, you'll still need to type in the search keyword, obviously, and then select which ones you want to use. And then from the list that you select, you can then create the campaign as I just described. So you don't have to do that on Facebook, Anthony. So you do the research inside ConnectExplore, and then you create a campaign from inside ConnectExplore as well. The thing that you will go inside your Facebook Ads Manager is to see the statistics, right? So to see the stats, you go into the Facebook Ads Manager, and that is something that we might actually add into ConnectExplore as well. I'm not sure at this point. Depends on feedback, depends on the roadmap and things, and basically all the ideas that we get on. And how that ends up on the priority list. But for now, we're really focusing on the things to make things easier. And like the stats, for example, you can, like Facebook has that like locked in. Like I personally like the way they present their stats. So I figured there's no need to duplicate what they've already done. So the stats, you go into your Facebook Ads Manager. The rest you can do from inside ConnectExplore. And Dan is saying, I logged into ConnectExplore, I'm not seeing the new feature. Good point, let me just actually show you that on the slide. And unfortunately, let me just see if I can actually bring that up right now on the screen. Might be cool to. So, I'll have to work sort of like backwards right now. Let me just move the TV over. Hopefully you can all see it. It's actually, I think I should be able to zoom in a little bit. Boom. And now I have to look backwards. So if you're searching, I just want to show you where it actually is. And I'll make sure, like, I actually created an introduction video as well, which I'm going to show you as well. And my laptop is super slow right now because I'm streaming live, obviously. So I'm doing two things at the same time, which I obviously shouldn't. So I'm just going to do a quick test. I don't know, fish, for example, right? Let's say you do your research and you're just going to look for, all the interests that you want to use. Right now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on deciding which one to use. I just want to demonstrate where the feature is, so you can actually find it, right? So this all happens after you have picked your list, right? So let's say I want to have those. Let me just move all over here. Apply auto ad set, and then in this step right here that you'll see, it's loading. This is where you have the option. Either apply to a single ad set, which is the same as we had before, right? If I would click there, boom, you can apply it all to one ad set right now. This is what we had. And then right here is the new feature, test interest beta, right? So let me just show you that while we're on it anyway. So you select your ad account, you would, it's all loading, my laptop is slow. You could either use an existing campaign or I'm not actually going to create it, but let's say, for example, you can set up a custom conversion if you want, to know which one is actually what your goal is. And then you can divide your assets, because you can, like I'm doing right now, have every ad set every interest in one ad set. And as you can see right here, there's a good example as well. Sometimes an interest is too small to have in one, right? Like for example, this interest is too small. This one is audience size 0. So those two are actually not possible. So what you can do is blend them together, put one. You can just drag and drop. This is not something we have to decide for you. You can just drag and drop the ones, even if you these ones, I don't want to create a separate ad set. I just want to have them in one, right? Boom, just drag it over. You can just set it up however you want. And then we can create a name for the ad set. So for example, I'm going to use the name of the interest so that you'll know in the ad set name what it's going to be. So this is going to change into whatever the interest is. And then for example, you can add some text behind it as well, right? Blah, blah. Location, age, gender, pick the ads that you want to use, and then boom, hit create, and that is it. So I hope that explains where it is. So it's definitely live. Let me just switch back to my camera. Let me just see if there's any other questions. When I click on the new feature, it redirects me. I would love to see a ticket from that, Cornell. If you have any issues, I would love that. Again, where's the slide? For those of you who are stuck with anything, like I said, it's in beta. You shouldn't have any issues, but if you have any issues, support at ConnectExplore. Our team is standby, obviously, to help you out and to help fix any issues that we have. Going back to the chat. Yes, actually, cool. Someone's asking about training. Today, and I will send out, where's my mouse? Totally lost my mouse. Sorry for the chaos. Boom. So if you go to support.connect.explore, I already put a public video inside ConnectExplore. We'll send out a link somewhere as well. Can I just put it in the chat perhaps? I'll just copy the link in the chat. Because right here, I've got a video which goes through this feature step by step. So let me just go into the YouTube chat right now. Where's my mouse? Here's the tutorial. Boom, there's a link in the chat right now. So that will bring you to this video that I've created, which will switching back to the camera, which will reveal, we'll show you step by step how to use this feature. Cool? Michael is asking, I have a question. Let's see, you have a store for women, plus size woman, regular size woman, exercise stuff. How many ad sets would that be, or is my niche too large? So first of all, what the niche is about wouldn't really impact how many ad sets you would have to create. Like personally, I like to go for like around 20 ad sets, right? Because if it's too many, then obviously Facebook has to spend a bit of money on all of them to really get some insight. So obviously it depends on how much money you have to spend. If you have a bigger budget, you can do more. Personally, my sweet spot is around 20-ish. So there's like, it's enough to see exactly, hey, what's actually to see what's working, right? But not that many that like you have to spend a ton of money to actually get some information. Can you demo this new feature with layering? Sure I can. Of course I can. It actually works pretty much the same. The difference is mostly in the background, right? So I'm just going to do a new audience search. And again, my laptop is slow as I'm streaming. So let's say I would do fishing, right? Just going to hit search. And again, I'm just going to select a couple of random keywords. Tomb. Let's see, like those 14, just as a quick example, right? And let's say I would add one layer, right? And I would divide it. So now I just created one layer, which is empty. It's still creating it, I think. Again, my laptop is slow. Here it is. It's still empty. So I'm just going to divide all the audiences randomly, right? I might just delete that one. And now maybe I want to like reorganize. You can just like boom, drag and drop. So now you got those layers set up, right? And now if you were to test the interest, right? You will actually be asked like, which layer do you want to test? Like 1 or 2, right? So if I test the first layer, then we're going to split up. Let me just switch back to my camera. There we go. So if we're going to split up the first layer, right? If we're going to test the first layer, then we're going to split up this one, like these 6. And in any of those ad sets, we're going to have, like, for example, in ad set number 1 that we create, we target Antoine Fisher film, which is the first interest right here. And also this, right? So it will be the overlapping segment between this layer and that one, right? Second ad set will be, we'll be targeting this one interest right here. And also as a layer, all of these, so the overlapping segment between those two, right? So that is how the layering works in combination with the test interest feature. I hope that answers your question. You're most welcome, Alan. You're most welcome. Yes, you can create a new audience and then apply it to an existing campaign. So if you go to the test audience feature, let me just, where's my mouse again? If you want to apply it to an existing campaign, it has to be a CBO campaign, a campaign that is using CBO, in other words, campaign budget optimization. You can either create a new campaign or you create an existing campaign. But what's going to happen, like inside, again, this is loading, so it's slow, there we go. So what's going to happen is like inside that existing campaign, it's going to create all those ad sets, right? So it's not going to apply like, so it will be an existing campaign and then we're just going to create those 10 different or 20, whatever you decide on in the step afterwards. You decide, but it's going to create all those ad sets inside the actual campaign. I hope that answers your question as well. Cool. Anthony, thanks. This is neat. Appreciate that. Alan, great. Thanks. Appreciate that. And one more thing that I need to mention, again, this is in beta, so there's one more thing. Once you actually go through all the steps, right, and you actually create the campaign, right now this is going to change soon, probably over the next couple of days or next week. But right now what's going to happen is it will actually create a campaign and you will need your campaign browser to remain open. So it will actually say like, oh yeah, we're creating your campaign, do not close this screen. If you close it, the process will stop. And sometimes if you have a lot, like it's going to take a couple of minutes, so please keep your browser open. Later on, we're releasing an update where it's like, you know, even if you close down your browser, we'll just do it in the background. Like you don't have to wait for that, for all the magic to happen, just to be clear. So that's one of those things that is like part of it being a beta, so I hope you understand and have your patience. Again, I wanted to make sure you have this all before Christmas and not like letting you all know like, we're still working on it, and I wanted to at least get you all in here so that if you want to get started, you can definitely get started. This way we can get more feedback as well, and we can immediately start improving it based on your feedback as well. So that's why we decided to do that. Can ConnectExplore help us to target audiences for offline businesses, and if so, how? To be honest, I would say offline and online business aren't that different in terms of the targeting. It's really about, so also like when you're talking about offline business, depends obviously what kind of business you say, but it really depends, like your funnel is different. Like if it's a web shop, like, oh, it's easy. People they go to your web shop and maybe they opt in, or they see an offer and they buy, right? If it's offline, you maybe want to get them to a restaurant, or maybe you're really into real estate. But the targeting is the same. It's the same logic. How do you get your message in front of the right people? And people who are into offline stuff, like if you have an offline business, those people are still into certain things. Like if you have a restaurant, you can still target things that your audience is into. Like for example, a restaurant, right? Could be like certain style of cooking, like Indian food and like stuff like that, right? But so the targeting is the same, but what happens afterwards is obviously different, because there's not, if you're promoting a restaurant, it's not like you click on your ad and hey, and you can buy your food there, right? It's not going to happen. So in that case, it's more like maybe it will be branding, or maybe it will be like a content video where it's all about, or maybe it is actually about you create an online system, like for example a lead gen tool, where it's like, hey, we got this amazing deal going on. If you enter your email address right here, you actually get a voucher for the first time you come to our place. You get free drinks for the night. I don't know, something, right? And so I would say offline and online, it's not so much different in terms of targeting. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry for being vague. Not so much different in terms of targeting. But the main difference is like the funnel, like what happens after they click, because that's obviously super different. And I'd say even with online business, sometimes it's really hard. And I'll be honest, sometimes it is hard to decide who should see my ads, right? Because like if we're talking about a web shop for dogs, I don't know, that's relatively easy, right? But sometimes people come to me like, all right, so I'm targeting, I want to reach these and these people, but what keywords do I enter? Sometimes that is hard. I totally get that. And what I always do when I get that challenge is I grab a whiteboard or on my iPad, like I start writing down. And instead of thinking about, like for example, if I'm into real estate, right? Like for example, let's say take real estate. It's not like I'm going to enter real estate, because the people that I want to reach, people who are actually buying a house, they're not into real estate. They're in a different, like if I want to target people who are about to buy a new house, those people aren't necessarily into real estate. So I start making a list. What are the people that I want to reach, my ideal audience, what do they have in common, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, they just have a little kid, for example, or they just got married, or like you start creating a mental vision of who that person is, because sometimes you'll start to see patterns, right? For example, the restaurant, you could think like, oh, who goes to a restaurant? Or you could look at your own customer who's already in your business and think, hey, what do they have in common? Like for example, maybe they've got in common that a lot of people who are in your restaurant, they go to a local soccer match, right? And they just happen to make it a day out and they go to your restaurant as well. I don't know, just as a weird example, right? So maybe then that could be part of your targeting, right? Because that is what your ideal audience has in common. I know I'm going off base right now. This is more like a Q&A kind of thing that I wanted to share, but I just want to recognize that sometimes the targeting takes brainstorming, right? It's not always like you enter the main keyword and boom. Sometimes it takes thinking, who do I really want to reach, right? Who is my ideal customer? Sorry for taking this long to answer it. Cool. Good question. Ad placements and audiences. Right now, we auto select all the placements. That is something that is definitely on our wish list. So I would love to get your feedback as well on that, so we can prioritize. Because right now we haven't added that option in. We're also working on a completely new build of ConnectExplore called ConnectExplore 2.0, which we call ConnectExplore 2.0, but everyone who has access to ConnectExplore is automatically going to get that. That is not short term. That will definitely be end of quarter1, like if even, right? It's going to basically rebuilding it from scratch. But that we're not waiting for that feature. I'm just saying that we're working on two things. We're improving this feature, plus we're working on a completely new version of ConnectExplore as well. Not to hold your breath for that. But something like deciding on the ad placements right now is not in the beta just yet. It is one of those things that's obviously on our list because you want to be able to be in control for that as well. Cool, let me check if there's any other questions. Cool. Good question. Will this remain a forever plan of ConnectExplore or a beta testing and then it will be taken over from ConnectExplore and sold back to as an upgrade? No, you will not be sold this. Like, this is not going to be something paid. You're going to get this beta and you're going to keep it. So we're just going to add to it. Once it's out of beta, you'll still have access. Like everyone who has access to ConnectExplore, you deserve it, right? So we're not going to say like, oh, yeah, and then you need to pay extra. No, if you have ConnectExplore, you have this feature inside your account, right? That's not to say at some point we might actually split it up, right? And we say like, hey, ConnectExplore, we start ConnectExplore selling it and it will be a paid upgrade. But for all existing customers, right, you have it. And maybe at some point we decide like for new customers, we're going to exclude it and it's going to be an upgrade. Existing customers have this feature in your account, right? Just to be clear on that. Can you show the ad selection? Cool. I think I'm not sure if I showed that. Did I show that? Right. And the ad selection is definitely something. Let me just switch to my other screen. The ad selection is definitely something where we are still working on to improve because, to be honest, it is a bit rough, I would say. So let me just enter a quick name, blah, blah. So this is to select which ads you're actually creating. So you can basically just, what we're going to do is we'll show you your 30 most recent ads, right? As well as in your account, but then you can also just go into a certain campaign or in a certain ad set and just click the ad that you have already got in your account, and we're going to use that. So you cannot enter the title and image, you're going to use an existing ad already in your account and just use that in this campaign as well. So I hope that explains it. Cool. Let me see if there's any other questions. This is for CBO only. Yes, this is only for CBO. Lulo, appreciate it. Chris, appreciate it. So Anthony, right now, like assuming if you want to do all the placements right now, like if you want to do all the placements, then you don't need to edit. If you want to only have certain placements, then right now, unfortunately, yes, you have to edit it. But again, that's something on our list. So at some point we should have that in there, and then inside our interface, you'll just be able to select, hey, only Instagram or only the timeline. So again, it's a it's a work in progress as well. Cool. What is the minimum ads budget for your ad set I might use and for how long? That is a good question. And honestly, I wish I could give you an exact number. There is no exact number because to really see a difference between different interests, it depends on various factors, right? So first of all, how many are you testing, right? Like obviously, like if you're testing 5, you need a lower budget than if you have 50, right? But even then, between markets, like for some markets, you would for $5 you would get a good amount of views. Well, for other markets it's just more expensive. For the same amount of money you only get a few views, right? And obviously you need to have some information, some data. So like I could just throw something out here on the air, but it would not be fair because there is no like if you spend this you will have enough data. And so yeah, that like I wish I could answer that. Like I always like to start with a lower budget. Like I wouldn't start out like spend $100 a day, but again, what is low for one could be a lot for another. Like personally, I usually start like $20 or $30 a day for a new campaign, but for someone else it might be like a lot of money, which I totally understand, right? And someone else might think, well, I started $100 a day and that's cheap. Like it really depends. Like personally, I start with like $20, $30 a day, $40 a day ish, usually. But I can imagine if you're starting out, you want to start with a lower budget. So I can't give you an exact number for that, unfortunately. Do you see CBO working better than traditional ad set marketing? Anthony is asking. To be honest, it depends. Like some campaigns CBO, some campaigns ad set. Obviously, we are enforced to do CBO in a while, so we don't have the option anymore. Plus, with this setup, it only works. It only works with CBO logically because I'm just gonna draw it out to make sure I make sense. Hopefully it's gonna be visible right now. Let me just move the TV out of the way. It's because obviously like we have the campaign, right? And then we have all these different ad sets, right? If we would not have CBO with this setup, it would mean we have to, first of all, spend a minimum amount of money on every ad set, which first of all is expensive. So let's say $5 a day, five. But the problem is also, let's say a certain one is not performing at all. Then even before you look at it, Facebook would know that, right? But you said like, hey, I want to spend $5 a day on this ad set. So they're just going to keep on spending money on a loser, right? So in this setup, that is definitely not going to work well, right? Because if you have CBO, then obviously like, let's say CBO, and you get like $40 a day right here, for example, even though like Facebook is not just going to divide it equally, right? They're going to see like, hey, this one is actually working better. So automatically they spend more money right here. So they, even before you check the stats, they already start auto optimizing it as well. So to answer your question, yes, sometimes a non-CBO works better, sometimes CBO works better. But in this setup, it really only makes sense to use CBO. And obviously, again, in a while, that's going to be enforced by Facebook for all your campaigns. If I have a dark post on Facebook, can we still choose it as an ad in the campaign? So right, like for those who are not sure what that is, a dark post, like I'm assuming that what you want to do is you want to copy the ID, just like you can do inside the Facebook Ads Manager. Like you can just copy the post ID into the ad. Right now, that's not part of it yet, but that's definitely on my wish list because I want to do that as well. So just copy paste the post ID of a dark ad, of a dark post, sorry, and just paste that in and we'll use that. So that is on our list as well. So don't have an ETA for it, but it's on our roadmap list already to make sure that is part of it as well. What is better, use audience tests with or without layering? Good question, that's what I like. So personally, I so far, and again, I always like to test things out. Like the last test I did, my non-layering worked better, but I want to run more tests. So I have seen some where layering outperformed the non-layering one in terms of this setup, right? So far, I'm still like, we just pushed it live, where I'm testing it out as well. So I'll follow up with that like later on when I have more case studies and things like that. For now, I would say if you have the budget, test both, right? Because the thing is with layering, if you do layering with this feature, you need to be careful about how big the audiences are, because if it's too small, then obviously Facebook isn't able to actually reach it. So if you're on the fence, then I would definitely start out without layering for this feature. So I hope that explains it. How long will Facebook keep CBO until they I assume how long they keep the non-CBO, right? Because everyone has CBO. Some Facebook ad accounts, they already are just on CBO. Like if you didn't have any non-CBO campaign, exactly, you were not able to create any non-CBO campaign anymore. So some accounts are already fully enforced on CBO. I don't know the exact date when it's just going to be CBO. They had a couple dates, but they pushed it back every single time. I assume somewhere in the next 6 months, it's only going to be CBO campaigns, campaign budget optimization. Any other questions or questions that I missed? If so, please drop it in the chat. I'm getting a sore throat. Let me just take a sip of water while I wait for your questions. Again, there's a big delay between me talking and you guys and girls receiving it. Is Facebook that much more intelligent than us to better predict or knowing which ads are showing a promise? Well, Facebook is, to be honest, Facebook is pretty good at deciding where to spend money, but still some manual intervention makes it better. Like that's always what I like to think. So not even I like to think, what I see as well. So I do like their AI is getting stronger every single day. But I wouldn't just rely on that, right? So I wouldn't just create the campaign and just let it go. I would create a campaign. They already start auto-optimizing, but you still want to like turn off the ones that are just not performing, right? And sometimes, and this is an annoying thing by Facebook, sometimes you create a campaign, and not even just like this feature, and Facebook just doesn't show it. Like you'll have it run and you'll have like multiple ad sets, and one of the ad sets will have like 0 views or like hardly any views, and you're like, how can I know whether it's working or not if there's not any views? Like Facebook is sometimes weird with their AI. Sometimes they just assume it's not going to work even though it might work. So then, like, unfortunately, the thing we have to do is just duplicate it and then let that one, get some reach. But that's more inside Facebook ads in itself, not even so much related to this. So probably a bit off track right there. What is a dark post? So it's a good question. How do I explain a dark post? A dark post is actually, it's just the ad creative. Like inside Facebook ads, it's not called a dark post anymore. It used to be. It's like an old term for those who were around earlier. I don't believe it's still called a dark post, but it's basically just if you have a newsfeed ad, basically. So it's an ad, like it has a text and description, but it's not actually published on your Facebook page publicly. So if you go to your Facebook page publicly, not as an ad, you won't see it there. It's your ad creative. I hope that makes sense. Again, Facebook used to call it dark post. It's not called that anymore. It's a couple of years back. So the terminology is still with us for some that have been using ads in the past. Cool. Can I add 2 or more ads for one interest? Yes, you can select multiple ads as well. So you can just select the ones you want to use, for example, 3 or 4 or 5, doesn't really matter. And we'll add all of them in all of those ad sets as well. Let's see, any other questions that I missed? Can you tell them how to give us feedback? Yeah, let me just show you that as well, because I think that's a really good question. Let me just go to my screen again. Again, we would love to get your feedback. So right here, can I just move my camera out of the way? Cool. So right here on the bottom left, you'll see this. So if you're working on it and you have an idea or you want to report a bug, you click here on the bottom left. How would you rate your experience? And like rate your experience, like if I have a bug, like a bug, right? Like, and then explain in your own words what is happening, blah blah, right? Try to be as clear as possible. And if you click right here, you can actually take a screenshot as well. You can say like, well, this part is the issue, right? And it would automatically include it, and you just hit send, and boom. And you can add your email address if you want to get us to reply to you as well. So I could just add like group. If I want to, that's optional. And that is how you can share feedback. And if you have multiple things that you are annoyed about, or you see something, or you have just thoughts or something that you're like, but I want to use this thing, feel free to do that multiple times, because it helps us, right? So if you have multiple ideas, feel free to submit multiple ideas. We love that, actually. That's how we make it better. And that's how we make sure it's going to be the tool that is going to help you grow as well. Because, we want to make sure if there's something stopping you from using it, basically, I want to know about it, right? I can't say we have it ready tomorrow, but I can say we do our best to make sure that we gather all the feedback and we prioritize and we make a list, and that's our action plan, right? So this is not as is, this is our, I would call this version 0.1, right? So this is a starting point, and really our mission is to make sure it's if you look, my goal is, and this is not publicly, but my goal is that if in 6 months from now we look back at this presentation and we look at what this feature is, we're laughing about what it is right now, because in 6 months from now it's going to be so much better. So that's really my goal here. So I love all your feedback. Any other questions that you want me to answer before we wrap this up? Let me just check the chat. Cool. If I create 5 or 6 ad sets in one campaign, how do I set the budget in the ad set or the campaign level? You do it at the campaign level, right? So you got the campaign and then the ad sets and then the ads. On the campaign level, you set the budget, and then all the ad sets are below. So just one budget for the whole campaign. Joki, I would appreciate if you could send a support message to that as well at support@connecteo.io. I'd love to hear about it. We'll be adding a feature of building the ad inside of ConnectExplore. Honestly, I don't know yet, right? It's definitely something that I have on my vision board as a potential. Right now, at this point, not yet. Right now, we're doing it. We're focusing our attention on using your existing ads that you already have inside your ad account. And the reason for that is simply because we want to have all the other parts perfect first. We might at some point. I do not expect that to be short term. Like, I don't think that in the next couple of weeks that's going to be there. Definitely not. But it might be available at some point. But for now, we're really focusing on using all of your ads that you already have inside your ad account. Yes, there will be a replay. Someone's asking, is there a replay? Yes, there is a replay automatically on this YouTube link where we are right now. The way YouTube works, once this live stream is over, it will automatically turn into a replay, basically. Awesome. So unless there's any other questions, if there's any questions, let me know. Hopefully, I did not miss any. Again, I'm the worst multitasker, so if I did miss your question, it's not personal. And let me just go back to the right slide so you can actually see it. If you have any questions, you can always reach it at support@connectio.io. Okay, and I just also wanted to say a few words, because I said this at the beginning. I appreciate you all being here, but even more so, appreciated that you're a customer of ours. And if I look back over the last couple of years, I had a lot of fun creating these tools. And sometimes, as in a business or as an entrepreneur, as a lot of you I think can relate to, you're searching of. You're trying to answer the question, like, why do I do what I do, right? Like, why do I do what I do? And I found my answer, and that is really, like, I love building tools, but that's not my why, right? My real why is I want to make sure that everyone else gets results. Like, if you get more results using our tools, that makes me happy, man. I truly mean that. So going into 2020, I'm really excited, because with that clear vision, it helps me and helps the team as well to really, to zoom in on the things, like, what are the things that we can do that if you implement this into your campaign, it's just going to increase your ROI, right? And obviously, Facebook ads, it's hard. There's a lot of things you need to do. And I can't say, like, oh, just, make all your problems go away. That's not realistic. There's always going to be things that you need to think about the strategy of your business. And, like, there's all these different things, right? But I promise you that I'll do my best to make sure that our tools, like using our tools, you're gonna get a better ROI than if you weren't using our tool, right? That's really my goal, right? So that if everyone who's inside our community, inside our platform, they have an advantage compared to your competitors who don't have it. And that's my goal, and that's what's gonna keep us driving in 2020 as well. And with that having said, I'm actually excited. And actually, before we jump off, and I know this is gonna be awkward, but it's fine to be awkward, right? Let me just get that here. Because while we're all being serious about the new feature, I just also wanted to wish you, because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go live before that time, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas in advance. Obviously, next week it is Christmas. Kind of fits. So I want to wish you all an amazing time with your friends and family. Hopefully you're going to have an amazing time. Again, this is not very much related to what we talked about, but while we're all here, I hope you have an amazing time. I'm personally going to spend time with my family, my wife's family. We have 2 Christmas days here in the Netherlands, which is a weird cultural thing. We have first Christmas day and second Christmas day for some reason. Obviously, the support will be non-available on Christmas as well. Our team, just as much as you, is going to spend time with their loved ones, with their family. So on Christmas days, we won't have live support. We won't have actually people replying to your messages. Hopefully you understand that, but hopefully you won't be like, Facebook ads is amazing, but hopefully you won't be trying to run Facebook ads or like working on Christmas, because hopefully you'll be spending time with your family. So just wanted to mention that. Sorry again for being the silly weird me. And with that having said, I think we wrap this up. Unless there's any more questions. There are a few. Cool. Should we use ad set min-max ad set budget threshold inside the CBO to make sure all ad set gets the same impression? To be honest, like that stuff like that, I would always test. Like it's really, my hair is like all. I would always test out. There's no one best practice that always works best. So that's one of those things that you can always test inside your campaign. Cool. The slide deck, I'll see what I can do. I'll turbo replay with high quality as well in the Facebook group, I think. What is your second Christmas day and what's the difference? I don't know. Like I know the when, but what's the difference? Like Christmas Day is the 25th and the second one is the 26th. So 2 days. We have the same for Eastern. Like Eastern, we have first Eastern day, second Eastern day. Like I don't know why, but there's multiple of those days. And for like all my life, I thought, well, that's normal, right? Then I started traveling, started talking to people, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's on second Christmas day. Like, what is second Christmas day? I'm like, that's logical, right? Turns out that there's a few countries in the world that do it, but not a lot. So apparently we do, which is good, but also annoying because I'm a workaholic. So I would also love to work, but now I'm stuck with family for 2 days. But it's also a good thing. You know what I mean, right? So awesome. Well, since I don't see any other questions anymore, I want to thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. If I don't catch you live before Christmas, I want to wish you again a Merry Christmas and hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. And again, don't forget, your feedback, I would appreciate it. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.